It is embarrassing for me to admit that my biggest addiction is nicotine. Since I was 14 years old, every single day from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night, I couldn't go more than 30 minutes. The biggest hit, the most potent form of nicotine. 2 months ago, I quit cold turkey, and it was the toughest mental challenge I have ever done in my life. I got depressed again. I almost lost relationships, friendships. I almost relapsed thousands of times. But I can finally say that all the lessons that I've learned about myself, about life, about purpose, all the suffering was worth it. So after going through all that shit, I wanted to create this full, no bullshit, how to quit nicotine forever guide. Because posting about the journey and seeing so many other young men go through whatever their greatest form of addiction is, it doesn't matter if it's nicotine, porn, laziness. I want this video to be for the younger version of myself to come to when I was in the midst of not believing that these things should or could or would be fixed, and just to teach you how the fuck to do it. This is the kind of video that I needed when I was like curled up in a ball, crying like a little bitch, trying to punch holes in the wall because I was going through some of the worst withdrawals. The kind of video that I want to be proud to say that if you are going through whatever addiction, hopefully this can change your life. When I was 14 years old, me and my best friend walked into this local vape shop. I'm gonna expose them. Fuck you. Planet Rock in Vancouver, BC. And we bought our first Nick stick. We took these vapes out of the box. It was like the coolest toy ever. Everyone at school had them, and we thought it would be so badass to be the first one in our grade to get them. And we would do all the tricks, fucking blowing the O's, doing the tornadoes. And then one day we ran out of zero nicotine vape juice. So one of my friends said, hey, just try my 3 milligram nicotine juice. For reference, cigarettes are 12 milligrams, vape juice goes up to 50, and this was just 3. I remember being in my room upstairs practicing their tornadoes, hitting this 3 milligram Nick juice, not believing it was gonna do anything. And then I just started getting so dizzy. I was about to pass out. Then I started feeling this feeling of pure euphoria. Like my face was going numb and there was this big smile on my face. And then eventually I stopped doing the tricks. And that 3 milligram turned into 6, which turned into 18, 24, 36, and eventually I didn't feel the 3 milligrams. The only thing I felt was that 50 milligram nicotine, the salt nicotine. The only strong enough force to carry that potent power of like 10 cigarettes jammed into one half a vape. Dude, that's so bad. I did that till I was 17. Me and my friends would every single day wake up and try to get the biggest hit possible. Deep throat 3 vapes at once and take it as deep as possible and then stand up as fast as possible to get the head rush and then see who would pass out first. We would chase the high. And I loved every fucking second of it. There was this game that we played where we would stand in a circle, 10 of us, pass it to the next guy, and then hold our lungs filled with vape juice and nicotine until the vape got back to us, eliminating people slowly and slowly until there's 2 people left. And we go back and forth. And then whoever let go of that vape juice out of their lungs lost. And we did this every Friday night outside of our school. When I was 17 years old, it finally caught up to me and I realized, holy fuck, this shit's not good. I heard all about the popcorn lung and I thought it was a complete myth. And that only happens to guys who used to smoke. And one day, I was sitting right here on the ground, playing video games, and I couldn't breathe. I was having this panic attack because I couldn't even get up the stairs without convulsing. And my breath started to taste sweet. And every time I coughed, there was just this phlegm coming out. So I decided then and there, if I wanted to be an athlete, I wanted to be the man who I wanted to be in the future, I had to quit. So I put the vape down and I never touched it again. And the next day, I was irritable the whole day. My friends were trying to talk to me and I was pushing them away and I was so pissed off. But then I still didn't touch it. And that night I went to sleep. I was sweating, crying, cold sweats. I felt like a fever. I wasn't sick. I didn't do anything to get sick. My immune system's fine. Those were the first times I ever felt nicotine withdrawals. And immediately I ran to the cabinet and I grabbed all my mother's nicotine gum and I just ate as much as I could. My cravings went away. I never touched a vape again, but that day I admitted to myself that I'm going to have this nicotine addiction for the rest of my life. But fuck it, who cares? It doesn't do that much bad. Like, sure, your spinal joints might not be as good, but who cares if you're dependent on something for your happiness? So I started NRTs, nicotine replacement therapy. I tried the gum, the patches, but the thing that stuck with me the most was nicotine spray. This was something that we used to make fun of every single day as kids, because who the fuck is pumping liquid dip under their tongue? It was me. And it was such a potent form of nicotine, it felt like taking the biggest hit of a vape times 5. I did this every single day from age 17 to 2 months ago. First thing when I wake up, nicotine spray. Go to take a shit in the morning, nicotine spray. Before I meditate, nicotine spray. Before I got to the gym, nicotine spray. A little bit too much pre-workout in my system. I need to calm myself from the caffeine, nicotine spray. There's a big lift I'm about to hit, nicotine spray to calm down my nerves. I get back from the gym, let's reward it with nicotine spray. I got some work to do later. I don't want to do the work. Nicotine spray, now I want to do the work. I am having sex with my girlfriend. I go to the washroom, nicotine spray. I laugh at it now, but I couldn't do anything in my life without nicotine spray. And I was completely fine with it. But one day on June 23rd, 2023, we were filming for my other YouTube channel, and I forgot this at home. And it was the first time in 4 years where I didn't have nicotine in my system for more than 3 hours, besides when I was sleeping. Started getting irritable, I was yelling at my friends, my mouth started tingling, my vision started fogging, but I thought, fuck it, I can just finish this one and I get to go home and enjoy this. And then I remember looking at my 2 best friends. I remember looking at them and telling them proudly, this is the first time in my life I went 5 hours without putting nicotine in my system. And instead of telling me they were proud of me, they looked at me like guys do, and they laughed and said, okay, you could probably quit. And something about being so irritable without nicotine, I looked back with so much anger and I just said, fuck you, yes I can. What have I done? I couldn't stop myself. I told all my friends, I'm gonna quit nicotine. I told my girlfriend I'm gonna quit nicotine. I told my mom, and they all said, go ahead. Before I tell you about the quitting process, let me tell you a little bit of how nicotine works, or any bad addiction. In my city, there's one of the greatest addiction experts. He goes to where all the most violent homeless people are, and he can park his beautiful Mercedes Benz there and nobody attacks him because he's like part of the community. Now this guy, he has helped people cure their meth addiction, their nicotine addiction, their drug, alcohol addiction, every addiction under the sun, and he's an expert on it. However, he never had a drug addiction. His addiction was shopping. And after hearing this story, I used to look at everybody with an addiction that wasn't psychologically wiring, like drugs or alcohol, as them being a pussy. Like guys with nicotine addictions, guys just being lazy, guys with porn addictions, because these aren't things that psychologically wire you. However, what I learned is based on either your epigenetics from your DNA or how society or your parents treated you, it doesn't matter what the addiction is. Each individual addiction affects the person differently just based on their DNA and how they grew up. And everyone has that one vice, that one addiction that is the strongest to them, that holds their dopamine at the deepest level possible. So how nicotine works, especially with me, possibly because I saw my mother growing up smoking cigarettes whenever she got stressed. So many family members in my family tree who smoke cigarettes, or watching TV, seeing that people would take smokes for a break. I developed an addiction to nicotine that was so psychologically wiring that how it works is when nicotine comes into your body, it not only gives you so much more dopamine than anything in normal life can give you, but it also creates more dopamine receptors inside your brain to be able to handle that influx of nicotine. So you get more and more and more used to it. That's why people with any addiction typically need more and more of whatever that dose is to get their fix, because whether it's porn, nicotine, alcohol, create more and more dopamine receptors that just need more and more every single time. So when you go cold turkey without your drug or nicotine, whatever it is, the craving feeling is those dopamine receptors dying off. However, as we all know, how dopamine works in your mind, dopamine is the precursor for happiness, motivation, human drive. So let's say the brain without any drugs has 100 dopamine clusters, and you've been taking nicotine for 7 years like I have. That can multiply up to 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 dopamine clusters that only something like this can give you that fix. So when you take it away, you are left with the activities in life that can only fill 100 dopamine clusters, whereas you have 10,000. This leads to psychological depression from having no dopamine, anxiety, a deep lack of motivation even for the simplest tasks, and just you fucking hating yourself. On the first day of trying to quit nicotine, I came home having to film more things. So frustrated and angry, I was trying to punch everything in the house. And all this self-restraint, stoicism, and discipline that I built up through months and months of self-improvement, trying to change my life, felt like they all went out the door and that I never learned them. And I was so angry that I couldn't control any of these emotions, no matter how hard I tried to meditate or do push-ups to get the energy out. It made me feel like a weak little boy. And the part that hurt the most was the person who encourages me, who is the most proud of me, and who helps me the most in my life, my woman, my girlfriend. I called her that day, telling her that I was gonna do this. And I don't know why, but this chick, she got like she has no vices. She has fucking amazing mental health. And I look up to her so much for just being an absolute fucking badass. And she looked at me over the phone and she just told me that I can do this, that it would be hard, but I can do it. And hearing that, I tried to hold back tears in front of her. And all the thoughts of every red pill guy on the internet telling me that if I ever cried in front of a woman, that she deserves to leave me, that I am just like a weak, pussy piece of shit. I was like fucking holding out my eyelids, trying to catch the tears, just, yeah, thanks, babe, yep. Telling her that I was okay. And I think what hurt the most was being in that state, not thinking logically. I hung up the phone and all I thought was that she was gonna leave me now. And she was just saying that to be nice. And all these negative thoughts, nothing that I could control, or nothing that I had the strength to control. The only thing that I felt could bring me a little bit of release was physical activity. So for the first time in a long time, I went outside for a run. And bro, like, I'm absolutely fucking jacked. So running's not my thing, but I went outside for my first ever 5K run, and when I completed it, I felt absolutely nothing. That run probably filled up 100 out of the 10,000 of my dopamine clusters, and I was so pissed off that doing something good for myself, something that would usually make me feel fucking euphoric, I felt nothing. I went home that night and I couldn't sleep for the whole night. I just stayed up, cold sweats, almost in tears, just so angry. But for some reason, even though I had this beside my bed, if I ever wanted to quit, I didn't. On the second day, all I was doing was pacing around the house, trying so hard not to relapse. All I wanted was to shove some nicotine down my system. And that's when I realized I didn't have a reason why I wanted to quit. If somebody asked me why I was doing this, I could not articulate why I wanted to quit further than I just have to. So I just keep pacing around the house, and I stopped self-improvement. I stopped meditating, I stopped journaling, and I became an absolute fucking embarrassment to myself. On the third day, I didn't sleep again. My third day of no sleep, I realized nothing brought me purpose, nothing brought me joy. Script writing videos, trying to come with more self-improvement videos, stuff that I normally loved. The things that made me feel like I was on a roll in my life, that I was in flow state, were all gone. And on the fourth day, I realized how much self-work I haven't done yet. I went for another run to try to attempt to make myself feel better, because I was like, I can't just be an absolute pussy at home the whole day. And my girlfriend called me, and just hearing her voice tell me that I could keep going, I promised myself that no matter how hard life would get, I would always make sure that she knew that I was gonna be okay, that I was strong, that I could keep going. I always promised myself that I would never show weakness in front of a woman. And I was so mad at myself that I complained about my situation. And I was even more mad that she came with empathy, with love, and she told me that I could keep going. I couldn't hold it, and I cried in front of her. I broke down into tears on the middle of the sidewalk, running outside. And that was the lowest I've ever felt as a man. On the fifth day, I realized the best way to put it is I just have absolutely fucking terrible mental health now. Like, I was literally living the life of somebody with terrible mental health, hating everything, having no gratitude, having a very low sense of dopamine, having nothing to drive them and push them through life, hating everyone around me. And the reason I knew that I had horrible mental health was I realized my first instinct was to hurt other people. My girlfriend was in the hospital with malaria, and she didn't complain once, just helping me through this struggle. And the first instinct I got was to break up to her, because why is she even helping a guy like me? Like, why would she even be with a weak man like me? And all I wanted to do was break up with her and make her feel the pain that I was going through. One of my best friends encouraged me, told me the truth that if I wanted to make videos helping other men, that I couldn't go back to this. And there was a possibility of getting better. Even though the list of cons of quitting this, not being as productive, not loving life so much, having my work suffer, losing money, all the cons, the one pro of gaining self-pride was worth it to keep going. I wanted to tell them that they were shitty friends, that they were terrible people, that I could go back. I wanted to hurt the other people that wanted to help me. And I think that is the sign of somebody with horrible fucking mental health. On the 6th day, I finally got my first hit of real dopamine. I went outside for my first ever 10K run. If you want to watch the full video, it's on my other channel. I was just totally fucking going through it, and I know I needed to attach this suffering with some sort of purpose. And when I finished my first ever 10K run, I came back and I felt even like I just did one spray of nicotine. At the same time, I was happy. I was also so scared that it took an hour of running to feel the effects of something that I do over 100 times a day. On the second week, I barely slept 3 hours every single night, but everything was getting so much better. I slowly started to feel just a little bit of dopamine from working out 5 times as hard, doing cardio every single day. Physical activity was the only thing that gave me just a little hit, and I started to almost accept that maybe things would keep getting better until they got so much worse than they've ever been. Suddenly, on about day 10, nothing gave me that kick of happiness. I fell into the deepest feeling of depression. Every second thought in my brain was something negative, and then I would hate myself for thinking about that negative thought, and I would hate myself that I was thinking about that negative thought, and why can't I just let it go? And it would take so long to finally think about something logically, and I'd bring myself back. And then it would happen over and over again, and it was exhausting. It was every single day, thousands of negative thoughts. Even though I knew what to do and I knew how to do it, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Even getting out of bed in the morning felt like the hardest thing to do. And the worst part is the thought that kept reoccurring in my mind was that it would be so much easier to take my life than continue living it like this. Because for some reason, my ego, my pride wouldn't let me take the easy way out and go back to the nicotine. It got so bad that I was this close to breaking up with my girlfriend. And it was all my fault. I was insecure about her enjoying her summer, being halfway across the country, even though she's never shown me any signs of not being the most caring, precious, loving woman in my life. And the fact that there was no dopamine in my system overrode every piece of logic, and I just kept having these negative thoughts of other guys taking advantage of her, her cheating on me. And it wasn't the fact that I lost trust in her, it was the fact that I lost trust in myself as a man. And my whole journey through self-improvement, and I think that every guy goes through, is you get hurt by someone or something in your life. And that develops such a deep wound of insecurity. And then you go to this completely opposite side, that all women are just bimbo hoes and we can control them if we manipulate like this and we say the right things and we become this type of guy and never show them our true colors. Or the world is our playground and we can just fuck with people and it's all about making the most money. And then certain real life experiences bring us back down to a bit of the middle. And I think going to that middle is the scariest for all men. Going to that part where you can balance and still be that strong, capable, successful man that you are proud of, that you love. But the problem is when we stay in this extremely polarizing masculinity side that are taught by other people on the internet and not ourselves through our own experiences, when things in the world challenge us, challenge those beliefs that were imposed on us by other people, our insecurities shine the most. And when you don't have an addiction, a drug, something to cope with those insecurities, let me be honest, most of these red pill guys telling you to quit porn and all this, they're more fucked up than all of us watching, man. These are the guys who go home, can't control their porn, bust a nut, and fucking hate themselves. When you take away that addiction, the only thing you have to cope with is your own mind. So every little insecurity, no matter what it is that you've built up in your life, you have to face it head fucking on. And I realized my biggest insecurity is my perceived weakness as a man. Whether that's mental, physical, when I am losing a battle to something external, something that I think should be easy to get rid of, like theoretically it's so easy to you just put it down and you don't spray something in your mouth. The fact that I even had the thought of wanting to do it makes my brain think that there is still this little boy inside of me that is scared, afraid, that remembers when his parents didn't show him the love that he thought he deserved, that is back in grade 3 when what he thought was his best friend abused him, took all his money, and told him that if he didn't do everything that that kid wanted, they wouldn't be friends anymore. And that's that little boy inside of me that came out and almost destroyed everything in my life, from relationships to friendships to my work, all because I didn't have this, which made me hate myself so much more for wanting to have this. And that brought me to the worst day of this whole nicotine quitting. It was the end of the second week, and just like that, I felt depressed before I learned about Andrew Huberman's self-improvement tactic, how to cure my depression all over again, except this time I knew the cures. I knew if I just woke up every day and I just gratitude journaled, it would put real dopamine in my brain, and slowly I'd be releasing these artificial dopamine clusters out of my mind and putting real back in. If I just started working a little bit harder, pushing through these barriers, taking a little bit more time off, I could slowly adjust to what normal levels of life feel like without the addiction. But the fact that I didn't have the willpower to do any of this, and the fact that I used to, it fucking killed me. Every masculine idol I had as a little kid to a man to learning these guys on the internet. Maybe for some of you guys, it might be me watching some of my other videos or these videos, that those guys might secretly know that I'm acting like this. And worst of all, I felt like there was a version of myself that I knew I could do it, that it would be so simple, but I didn't. And I got to a point where I thought to myself so many times, and I'd be wrestling with this thought hundreds of thousands of times, that what is the point of quitting? It was just a stupid mistake not to bring it to that gym one day. I don't care if I have a drug addiction. It's not like I'm smoking cigarettes or this is 100% gonna give me cancer. You know, I'd rather have this addiction than have my work suffer. But even at that lowest of the low, sitting in my bed, ripping onto the sheets, trying not to cry, still kept going. And a month and a half after that, I've learned so many more lessons, so many more things that I'm gonna make a ton of fucking videos on. But I can happily say that I'm over my nicotine addiction. Before I give you the step-by-step guide of how to quit nicotine addiction, here are some of the most important things I learned. 1. Addiction keeps the things that you have to work on mentally the most hidden and suppressed. Your deepest insecurities, the ones that you don't want to face or that you don't even know you have to face, linked back to your most painful childhood traumas, will be suppressed and hidden when you cover it up with whatever addiction it is. 2. Addiction is different for everybody. It might have the same withdrawal symptoms, the same hatred for yourself, but it comes in different forms. Nicotine, alcohol, drugs, porn, laziness. And what it is it's something that's linked to your DNA evolution and your earliest subconscious that makes you feel safe, that gives you a cope. So if you're listening to this video and you don't have a nicotine addiction, hopefully you can look a little bit deeper, be honest with yourself about the thing that holds a grip on your life, and you can apply these tips to that. 3. If you keep thinking about quitting like I did, but don't have a written reason or an exact reason why yet, that is your subconscious telling you that it is time, that now is the purpose in your life to quit this addiction. And most importantly, number 4, as a man, we always say that the thing that we yearn for in life is freedom. Well, freedom is discipline, and you cannot be truly free if there is something negative that you wake up to every day that you depend on. Alright, you've waited a long time. I hope that personal story juiced you up enough, or for some people that are going through some sort of addiction, it resonated with you, because this is a whole sales tactic, because I'm trying to sell you a course. No, I'm just kidding. I just want you to understand my view of the story, of how bad it affected me, so when you're listening to these actionable steps, you know that I put in so much time and dedication to think of these, and narrow it down to the 8 guaranteed steps that will help you quit your addiction. This shit fucked me up, man, so I don't want to see other young men out there having this shit fuck them up so much. I hope this can help you speed run the process a little bit. I should have took my own advice when I thought I was going through my worst depression, when I was going through the breakup that you saw in the first video that made me want to end my life. Double down on self-improvement. Step 1, journal a why. So this is the most important step, and this is what I wish I did in the beginning. It would have saved me so much time, so much suffering. So how we're gonna do this is you're gonna open up to a blank page in your journal and write at the top, why do I want to quit nicotine, or whatever your addiction is. You're gonna lock yourself in a room, set yourself a timer for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, or no timer at all. Give yourself a free day to do this, and simply just write the thoughts that come to your mind. I always say this, but the brain works like a supercomputer. There are so many thoughts. Your brain can hold billions of thoughts in it. Your motivations are hidden behind so much bullshit. So you might write at the top at first, vaping's just kind of gay, which could be true, but you'll get deeper and deeper, and you'll start to realize that this is something that truly controls my life so much and makes me hate myself, even though I don't want to admit it. Or there's a version of me that wants to become, as Damo always says, that giga chad of themselves, the version of themselves that's free of everything, that is capable. I can't be that version without this, and I'm scared to admit it. Write these down and keep writing until you come up with an answer that you're satisfied with. I wish I could give you an exact time, but there's no exact time. Just keep writing until you are satisfied with the answer. Once you have it, you will have that piece of paper. You can rip it out of your journal, put it up somewhere, fucking take a screenshot, wallpaper, and every single time that you forget the meaning or things get tough, you can look back and refer to it. I wish I did this shit, bro. Oh my God. Genuinely would have saved so, like, pick up the journal. Let's go. Number 2, talk to somebody. So this should be one of your chosen brothers, the guys in your life that you feel safe talking to. If you don't have the fucking steel testicles to talk to your partner, your parents about this, that's okay. Talk to that one guy friend who you know will keep your secret safe, who's gonna be there with you. The guy who's gonna bully you on day 2 when you're sitting there curled up in a little ball like a little bitch crying about it, but then also give you enough love and help you through it and tell you that it's gonna be okay and that you are strong enough to go through it. So for me, those were my best friends, Humphrey and Jeff. They helped me so much through it, and they were honest with me every single step of the way. I also thank everyone on my team, the person editing this right now, Nicola, the guys on my team. I remember sent a Discord message out to all of them that I was just going through some shit, and the fact that they were so accepting of it, knowing that I was gonna come back to work one day fine. Those are the guys that you want in your life. Those are the guys you should tell. It was really hard for me to admit, but there was one day I genuinely couldn't take it, and I called a addiction hotline. There was this woman on the phone. Just hearing from a professional who's talked to thousands of people who've gone through the same thing that you're going through was so relieving. I think without that, I wouldn't have been able to believe that I could have kept going through it. I was about to relapse and give up because it was getting too hard. I was having all those thoughts of maybe just having a nicotine addiction is not that bad, because it really isn't. But hearing that from this person that I can keep going, that was nice. 3, force your bitch ass to meditate. In those first 2 weeks, I just kept making excuses of why I wasn't doing the most basic, simple mental health principles. Meditation is like weight training for your brain. Every single second you're in the meditation is like another rep teaching you how to become more focused, present, let go of the negative thoughts. The best way I suggest doing this is if you're absolutely new to meditation, 1 minute. If you've done it a couple times in the past, 3 minutes. Oh my God, it's so low, I can't do it. Shut the fuck up, you're a bitch right now. You're a noob at meditation. I'm not gonna tell a gym beginner to go bench 405. Advanced, 5 to 10 minutes, and so on. Pick a time, it doesn't matter. But just make sure this is a daily practice in the morning. One of the first things you do when you wake up, and force yourself to do this. Literally tell yourself that if you don't do this, you're not gonna get through this addiction. How you're gonna do it? I compounded it with like looking out at the sun like a fucking autist. Trying to get that Andrew Huberman, like, you know, like sun rays in my eyes for the serotonin. You're gonna pick one thing. I always pick the breath coming in and out of my nose. Just focus on that. And every single time your mind wanders, just bring it back to the nose. Don't hate yourself, nothing, and just try your best. Focus on the nose. At first, you might get distracted over 100, 1,000 times. But eventually, it's a skill, like anything else in life, that you can build. And eventually, you're gonna subconsciously do this throughout your normal life. This helps with addiction one of the most, because when you're in that hysteria, that mania, that panic, this will bring you back to center. A practical step with the meditation is write down how many times you typically meditate before and double that. Just having a game plan, an action plan of knowing that you are actually putting in the right amount of work, and I think it should be doubling it, will keep you accountable and bring that little bit more pride, a little bit more dopamine into your life. Number 4, schedule extra time for self-improvement. If you're working a 9 to 5, fuck you. I don't know. Times that you would usually spend fucking off or playing video games, or if you do run your own company or you set your own hours, make sure to set an extra 50 to 100% more free time to do self-improvement things like the meditation, like the journaling. Because this extra time that you might feel like you'd be wasting in the beginning will compound and save you so much time in the future. So how my day typically goes is I wake up at 7 a.m., sleep at 11 p.m., and within that time, realistically, I can probably get all my work tasks done within 8 to 10 hours. However, when you're going through whatever addiction withdrawal it is, your nervous system treats it like trauma, like you just got stabbed, or like a loved one left or died. Your nervous system can't really differentiate what it is. It all feels like trauma to it. So it's gonna make you feel less motivated. It's gonna put more energy toward that. You're gonna be more tired. So what you need to do is, like you just got injured, like an athlete, you need to recover more. So set in more time. And I decided to set, instead of typically an hour to do all my self-improvement work, I put in 4 hours just to meditate, journal, walk. The minute I did that, 1 week after, I felt almost everything not only go back to normal, but start to get some happiness beyond what it was before I started to quit. 5, attach your cravings to progress. So scientifically, every single time you get a craving for nicotine, what that is one of those dopamine clusters or a bunch of them in your mind dying off. The dopamine receptors dying off in your mind sends a signal for you to get a craving. So instead of thinking of it, oh fuck, I'm craving this, I can't stop the craving, think of it as you're actually losing from that 10,000 dopamine clusters back to that 100. It's like if you go to the gym, you could think of every single rep you're doing, every single step on the treadmill or on the pavement outside. It's like you're shedding off just a little bit and a little bit more fat. Step 6, get addicted again to something healthy. So at first, you're not going to want to. In the beginning, I did not want to at all. I felt like I was trading one addiction for a whole other, which I was. I felt that I didn't want to live a life where I had to go run for an hour just to feel that hit of one happiness. I didn't want to go have to do 8 hours of deep work every day to feel the satisfaction of one nicotine head rush. However, I slowly started to realize that, unfortunately, or fortunately, if we want to become the top 1% of men, this is how the successful people feel. The guys that we look up to, they go out there and get their happiness not from these little devices, but from hard work. Like, look at David Goggins, and nobody's saying you have to wake up every day at 4 a.m. and run 12 miles, but he gets his pride and his happiness from this hard work. And although it might be ruining his body or it might be tough, that hard work is inspiring millions of people, saving lives. So make the sacrifice and trade it for something else. And for me, I traded the nicotine addiction for an addiction to working out. I worked out 5 times harder than the gym. I started running every single day. It got to a point where it was genuinely a little toxic for my body. My nervous system started to get more tired. I couldn't recover. My way to cope with being unhappy was going to the gym. I was ashamed at first, but not only did slowly every single session did it become just a little bit easier and easier to get that happiness, but also I started to realize more and more that if I had to live my life like this, I would much rather put in the work here and not only get better results for my life, but be able to inspire some other people to do the same, to get my happiness from this. Step 7, set one physical suffering goal. So for most men, because we like to pretend we're logical creatures, even though sometimes we are the most emotional people on the planet. Going back to the old caveman ooga booga DNA genetics, the way that we get our dopamine, our happiness, our fulfillment in life through physical exercise, working hard in the gym. That's why you get that runner's high, that fucking top of the world feeling after you hit a PR. So set one goal that is attached to some sort of physical activity that is just a little bit beyond what you believe you can do. For me at first, it was that 10K run. I didn't believe that I could just put on my shoes and go do that 10K in under an hour. But setting that goal that was a little bit scary, a little bit beyond my edge, was exactly what I needed. Because now I had this outlet that every single time I felt frustrated and I hated myself and I was getting all these cravings and I just wanted everything to stop. Honestly, I'm not going to train for it. I'm just about to go do my first ever marathon, probably at the worst time ever. But the cycle of doing something big like that will teach your brain to believe in yourself that you can get over this addiction. And slowly getting over this addiction will teach your brain that you can go achieve these great things in your life. So go set one physically suffering goal right now. Pull out the journal, Write it out, whether it's benching 405, 225, a marathon, a 10K, even a 1 mile run, something that's just a little bit beyond your edge. Write it down to make sure that it's the right goal. Journal about it, just like we did in step 1, why you want to pick this goal. Lastly, number 8. Write down all your realizations and reasons. When you come into a state of suffering, whether that's imposed suffering when you're coping with the addiction by doing this big physical goal, or you're going through the most mentally tough period, you're at night holding your hair, just trying your hardest not to grip your cock. When you're in the biggest suffering and you get through it, you come to these realizations, these little, deep, subconscious, authentic reasons that are only authentic to you of why you want to quit. Whether that's to impress your future wife, to have your current girlfriend not think you're an absolute bitch, whether that's just live a healthier lifestyle, or simply stop hating yourself. Every single time you come up with a new reason why, you'll start to feel a little bit of excitement when you realize it. That's what I'm gonna say to the camera, or that's why I want to quit. Yes, that's gonna keep me going. Every single realization, reasoning, whether it relates to just that addiction or what you learn to apply to your future life, whether it's this will make the best how to quit nicotine self-improvement video, write it down. And now you'll have this whole rapport, this whole resume of all the reasons, realizations of why you are still going. And who knows, one day you might be able to change someone else's life with that information. And sometimes just the very reason that you need something like this to feel normal, as much as we don't want to admit it, is the reason we should quit. So maybe your addiction was like mine. It wasn't smoking your lungs away or poisoning your liver with alcohol. Maybe quitting that addiction wouldn't bring you some physical benefit. But the mental pride as a man of knowing that you have picked your hardest battle and you are facing it head on. And every single day, no matter how hard you keep getting knocked down, you take another step forward and forward and forward until one day you win. That is the best reason of all. Subscribe to Feel My Ego and stop sucking on blueberry unicorn juice. Love you boys, bye.